All right, well, now Halitics. So glad to be talking today. It is a Friday free for all, and great to always talk to Carlos. Carl, how are you doing today, Carlos?
Good, good, good. Always glad to be here with you too. How a lot going on, but hey, making the best out of it.
Kind of a DMV day. We're going to talk a lot about events in our area. Carlos and I live pretty close to each other in just outside of Washington, D.C., north of the city. And we're going to talk about District of Maryland stories. I don't think Virginia really factors in as much. But just before we kind of get into it, and I always start with Gaza. Unfortunately, feel no choice. But we were just saying, yeah, it's rough times, right? I mean, you ask how you doing, and everyone else says, "Oh, I'm doing great," but we're all kind of struggling right now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even just outside of the news, like money's tight everywhere. Things are more expensive, and ain't nobody coming to save us out here. How?
Well, you talk about that affordability, right? And I think that's going to factor into some of the stories too, just the money issue, where our tax money goes when it comes to institutions like public schools, where money goes to if we contribute to nonprofits that we are hoping will be on our side. Do they choose good leaders to steer them in the direction we're hoping they'll go when we contribute? And also, when it comes to the federal government, is money being spent wisely and efficiently when it comes to, say, police? We're going to get to all of those stories. I think we kind of billboarded them. Carlos, let's just start with Gaza, though, real quick, and won't be as much as I often do. I don't want to unduly focus it, because when I've got you on, I want to talk about the stories that really are in our world, as opposed to other places. But not as bad a day. Only 18 killed in latest Gaza attacks. This is from Anadolu Ajansi. Not clear why. There have been at least one more report of starvation. Carlos, I ask a question about this. Why do you think it's still tough to get people to, and we're seeing more and more come on board, recognize this is genocide, we are wrong to support Israel, but there still seem to be many who are reluctant to accept that?
Yeah, I think it's been institutionalized over. I also think it's an age difference. If you get to older people, for some reason, at some point in history, there was like an institutionalization of like Israel is the greatest thing since like Wonder Bread, so everyone has to support it. And I think like elected officials, we already know why, AIPAC and all the special interest money. I think just from people in general, I think some of it is religion. Some of it is straight up just like either it's your religion of some people who are Jewish and have been told like you support Israel no matter what. You obviously I'm not equating all Jewish people to being Zionists, but I think also within the evangelical Christian movement, there's a big slice of people who are pro-Israel no matter what. But from what I've heard, it seems like they're coming at it more from like a end times are coming soon. So let's support Israel because we want end times. So yeah, it's different reasons that are weird.
Well, do you think, and you mentioned this, that certainly public opinion has really shifted hard against Israel, as it should have, but we're not seeing that mirrored in our electeds. And that's because you said the AIPAC money. Do you think there's a point that could come where a majority in Congress in both houses will say the public opinion is so monolithic against Israel, we're seeing 90% saying we have to stop supporting this genocidal state, that the elected representatives would actually vote against the people who give them millions of dollars?
I honestly, no. I don't think they would do it just if public sentiment isn't in their favor. I think that, and I think for the Democratic Party, it's a little different from the Republican Party. I think for the Democratic Party, they are so used to not caring what their base or the Democratic voter wants. So they're kind of like, hey, I don't really care what you want. For the Republican Party, I think you may see more elected officials doing like a Marjorie Taylor Greene type, like, hey, I'll do the signaling that this is wrong, but I'm still going to vote the way I want to vote. I think what's going to actually change some minds of elected officials is people just not returning to office, even though AIPAC is supporting them. I think if people start treating AIPAC money, if a candidate's taking AIPAC money, that candidate is dead to them as far as I'll never vote for you again, I think you could see some people actually get into office with a bigger sentiment of anti-Zionism, and I think that can change Congress overall. But I also think, hey, you got to at least say some things are happening, because look in Maryland. It was an article that was shared around recently about Sarah Elfreth, who's in Congress now, and that the pressure that people did against her for thinking about going to Israel on one of those like Israel funded trips, that she actually decided not to go. So public pressure gets us somewhere. I think people just need to start being scared, or not scared. People need to see that you won't get to office if you're a Zionist.
Yeah, I agree with you. People have to be defeated because they're taking a pro-Israel position. And you mentioned the Sarah Elfreth story. I actually covered that earlier this week, Carlos. Do you think it's meaningful? I took the position it's kind of nothing. It's performative. Oh, I'm not going to go to Israel. But, in the end, the Zionist lobby doesn't care if you go on their boondoggle. They just care how you vote. So
yeah.
Do you think this augurs better for, Democrats going forward, that they actually will maybe not vote against their constituents' wishes and against the best interests of the world, the planet?
In the grand scheme of things, do I think it makes a big deal? No. Do I think it's good for the movement of like people to say like, hey, we don't want our elected officials tied to Israel? Yes, because I do think like even those small wins adds fuel to the fire to say, hey, look, we did this. Now let's go a step further and tell her, hey, either you're going to reject AIPAC money or you may not be in office.
Carlos, you and I both watch a lot of the same podcasters.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how much you have been keeping an eye on the Due Distance Bros, Russell and Keaton, but they make the point similar to you, not with respect to Sarah Elfreth, but with respect to Mamdani, that he may not be all that. He may not be as progressive as we want. We've already seen him move a little bit to the right, meeting with the billionaires and all that, which I think both of us were upset by. But just the fact that he ran against Israel in a lot of ways and calls it a genocidal state and says he would refer Netanyahu to the International Criminal Court if he came to the city, they think that's meaningful. And that sort of sounds like what you think about Elfreth's decision not to go to Israel on birthright tour.
Yeah, I think that it's something that adds it adds fuel to the movement to say, hey, what we're doing is actually making some wins. So let's keep the pressure on. I think that if it was just a road, like, and I get it, her not going to Israel it's a small, teeny tiny win in the grand scheme of things, because if you're still going to do what you're going to do, I mean, you're just saving Israel money from not being able to fly you out there. But I do think these are like small wins that we need to take advantage of and capitalize on as well. And I think also it makes it hard. I think in Maryland, it makes it a little bit harder for elected officials to have this all-out support for Israel, because you have people like Chris Van Hollen in the Senate, who is one of the, and I want to preface this by saying he's one of the most outspoken senators on the genocide. The problem is, I don't think he's called it a genocide, but I also think that, yes, he's one of the best ones we have, but it's still not,
it's pretty weak, like, right?
Yeah,
he's barely acceptably good enough, and yet he's better than just about all the others. We did see also Brooks, I think, did vote or co-sponsor one of the block the bombs bills that Bernie promoted. And that took a tremendous amount of pressure, many calls to her office. Folks go, I actually met with one of her, along with other representatives from Peace Monterey, Peace Action Maryland, met with one of her staffers. And we appreciated that he met with us. And I'm sure it all added up and made a difference. But in the end, will also Brooks, who took, I believe, quite a significant amount of money from AIPAC, will she ultimately vote against Israel when it matters, when it really could spell a difference? I'm cynical. I'm doubtful.
Yeah. And also, it's like, would we be in the same position with what she's saying if Chris Van Hollen wasn't there? in talking about it so much. But also, I mean, you got to look at the total opposite of Chris Van Hollen is Steny Hoyer, who said he did a recent Instagram post talking about he's been to, this was what, I think his 22nd trip to Israel. And was so happy to talk about his support for Israel. I always look and say, I don't get how as a American or a United States politician, you talk so much about supporting a foreign country, and that's not seen as similar to like a Bob Menendez type of like, aren't you kind of helping out another country when that's not your foreign adversary? Or
Yeah, no, I think it's disgusting. I think Hoyer's really loathsome, a horrible person, one of the worst. You mentioned earlier Taylor Greene, right, from the Republican side, and I think her rhetoric has been better than any other representative that I've heard. She repeatedly has called what Israel's doing a genocide. She didn't have to be arm twisted into it like AOC, who said it once, Bernie, who will not say it. I don't think Van Hollen has ever used that word. And also, Taylor Greene has really called out AIPAC, which is really, really good. But you're cynical with respect to her too. You don't, is it because she, on a lot of other issues she's been pro-Trump and you just can't give her credit for this, or you just don't trust her? I mean, what's your sense?
I mean, when it comes to Israel, I support her rhetoric, all that. When it comes to her bill that would have only blocked, what was that? Was it only
funding for the Iron Dome? It was actually funding the Iron Dome.
Yeah. I feel like, hey, that was a good bill. I would have liked to see it be like removing all the funding, but I guess that has less chance of passing. I would do offensive and defensive. Like we're just done funding it in general. I think that, but I do give her credit because she is one of the anti-war voices on the right. And there are very few of them that are actually anti-war, other than the Ukraine and Russia war. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's all the other issues.
Let me make a good argument that I believe why I actually feel more positively towards Marjorie Taylor Greene than you. It's not just the bill, which I think was a good bill. I really do. I mean, she said, hey, we should not pay for this Iron Dome. And I agree with her. But also, she will call out Republicans. She'll call out Republican representatives like Randy Fine. She'll call out Republican puppets or Republicans, whatever you call them, whisperers like Mark, is it Levin? What's his name? That horrible little toad? Yeah. Mark Levin, I guess is his name. He's horrible, but she'll call them out.
She will.
But when have you ever heard like an AOC call out, I don't know, Joy Reid or, and actually Joy Reid was one of the best, right?
Yeah,
or call out Rachel, right?
Yeah.
She won't do that. No. So I give
Taylor
Greene.
It's more of a cordial thing when on the Democratic side.
It's a partnership. It's a partnership.
It's a partnership. The most disgusting kind.
Yes.
No, you're right.
So I did appreciate Taylor Greene on that issue. All right, let's get to this story. Now, we're talking about the District of Maryland, Virginia. So Trump takeover, the federal takeover of D.C. And we got a clip. You referred me to this Breaking Points clip. It's a couple days old, so it's dated in some respects. We're not going to play all of it. He did really good coverage, but I want to play some of it, and I'll interrupt it at various points, and then I'm going to challenge us both on our previous position with respect to the Harris-Trump election. But here's the clip.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's one of the things that's ridiculous about.
So yeah, this is Breaking Points, but let me just preface this. So Carlos shared this. I thought it was a good clip because they do have some video, some imagery, and also they have an interview with Janice Lewis George. She's one of the probably the most progressive, progressive in DC council. And I actually did work for her when I was at our revolution. I helped try to get her elected. So I like Janice Lewis George.
Yeah, DSA support and all that. Yeah, she is good.
She really is. She's as good as they get on that on the Democratic side. Right, here's Crystal Ball Moore on DC with the National Guard. This is a few days ago, and this is the 12th.
Put A5 up on the screen. Like, this was the scene in DC is all these DEA agents, because they not only called up the National Guard, they also pulled agents from DEA FBI and other federal law enforcement agencies.
All right, I'll stop that clip there. I'm going to go back. One thing that took me, and I wanted to play that, Carlos, is because my son was down at the baseball game yesterday in DC, and this is exactly what he described. Just a bunch of guys, maybe some of them a little heavy, overweight. They're slovenly. I think they're looking very unimpressive, to be honest with you. Just standing around, talking, gabbing, doing nothing. So what a huge waste. Beyond everything else, what a waste of our money.
It is. There's no reason for them to be out there. I don't even think they have arresting authority to arrest people for this day-to-day stuff. So they're literally just there wasting time and wasting money. And honestly, it is you see here, they're just walking around as people are jogging and going about their normal day.
And that goes to our tax money. I mentioned that what we spend our money on was just a complete waste. And Crystal Ball makes the point, presumably there probably are some criminal activities they could be worried about, but
stopping fentanyl, they could be doing, the DEA could be doing that. You could have now I'm all for getting having law enforcement to some respect of FBI agents and stuff, not do some of the destabilizing of America's cities and just activist groups that they do. But this is a waste of time. And this is a show of force. I've also been hearing people talk about how this is almost like using DC as a test case, to saying, hey, let's see how far we can expand this. And Trump has even talked about bringing the National Guard to places like Chicago and Baltimore and other places. So, he did already in LA. He brought the
ICE. It was ICE, but also National Guard. Very worrisome trend. And it does remind me a little bit when you see those federal agents patrolling the streets, especially in a park. I have to say, there's this mindset in me that goes back to even Nazi Germany, seeing those stormtroopers and stuff walking through the parks of Berlin, and it's intimidating. People don't like it. There's a lot of response. It's not like you just have one local DC, Metro PD officer walking the streets, which is fine. You always feel good, but just a bunch of these guys. What are they doing there? I think there's an intimidation factor, and what's the goal? Is this you said test case? Is this kind of a more fascism? Really, just we live in a police state where everything we do is being overseen.
Yeah, I think this is just the expansion of the police state in its latest form. I think also, as you look at it too, this is there's a recent video of some black men who were sitting on, I think they're a porch or something, and then some of these federal officers were walking the street and then walked up to them and said, "Hey, what are you all doing here? Do you have your ID on you? What are you smoking?" And then started going into almost this interrogation of them. And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we're just here to keep the area safe." It's one, you're not keeping the area safe because there's not even a big correlation between police presence and safety anyway. But then also it's made to be, hey, we're just going to intimidate residents here to make you feel scared. And there's even other like news people talking about how Trump should go further and basically kick people out of DC. I am on more of the mindset of this could be him saying, look, depending on how this whole election goes and what criminal charges he could be facing when he gets out of office, let me just go ahead and almost barricade myself in DC a little bit, have federal officers lined up that I control, and then try to kick me out. What are you going to do?
I think that's right. I think your analysis is spot on, Carlos. I'd also note he's really gone after the homeless more than any other group when it comes to the particular DC takeover, which is awful. These folks have no place to go, obviously. That's why they're homeless, because they have nowhere else. That's why they're living in the streets. I think, this offends Trump's sense of aesthetics. So he doesn't like to see people who are living, under bridges, which is literally how many people in DC live, under railroad bridges, under highway overpasses. Yep. And rather than try to make their lives better, rather than spend the money to provide not just shelter, not just one shelter, but actual apartments, Trump's going to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on law enforcement that will only worsen the situation. But This is what we've seen. This is where we are as a country, really heartless, soulless, cruel. Let me play a little more clip. I want to Janice Lewis George, and then maybe go back to our position when it comes to the 24 presidential election. Maybe did we dope it out a little bit wrong? Here's Councilwoman Lewis George.
How do you feel like she has handled the run up to this crisis? And
just let me again introduce. So this is the most progressive council member in D.C., I believe. Maybe Alyssa Silverman isn't on the council anymore, I'm not sure. But Janice Lewis George, DSA endorsed. Again, I helped try to get her elected. We succeeded. She won. She and the mayor are not close. Muriel Bowser is much more of a corporate mayor. She has consistently bent over backwards, I believe, to try to make D.C. business friendly, to work with Republicans. She's focused to a significant degree on quality of life issues that impact on Northwest, which is the whiter, wealthier area of the city. And this is very different than populist Janice Lewis George, who wants to make sure there's housing, affordable housing, more like a Mamdani, I guess. And anything you want to add to that, Carlos? I get that pretty much correct.
Oh, no, you're spot on. I would also just add that also Muriel Bowser is very in favor of the gentrification that's been happening in DC, and actually is doing things to actually expand the gentrification when it comes to housing and the building of these like luxury apartment buildings and things like that as well. And then I would also add that Janice Lewis George actually represents Ward 4, which is the ward that Muriel Bowser used to represent as a council member before she got elected to being mayor as well.
Yeah, and one other point. There was a lot of uproar because Trayvon Martin, who is kind of a very controversial figure, there's serious questions about corruption. He represents the poorest ward. I believe it's 8 in Anacostia, so that's the east of the river.
Marion Barry ward.
That's right, the Marion Barry ward. And I think they're very fair questions about Trayvon Martin. I mean, I'm not going to defend the guy, but the people who live in that ward understandably view themselves as under siege from the rest of the city. Yeah. And this is, pretty much a black-run city, but the African Americans and whites who in the other parts of the city treat Anacostia like a dumping ground. And so they see Trayvon Martin, who speaks up against them and uses very, I think, powerful language, and often fairly, that they're going to overlook his questionable financial behavior. So I think that's what happens when you have this incredible inequality. Janice Lewis George, though, really good. And here, let's play some. So she's asked about the mayor's response.
Particular crisis, and what should she be doing differently?
I think she has taken the cautionary approach in how she's handled with the administration, and sort of tried to find common ground with the president and Republicans, and sort of tried in her best ways to sort of appease whatever they are trying to do. I think in some instances, people could say, that's what we have to do because we're under home rule and we're in a vulnerable position. And I do think we are in a vulnerable position because of not having statehood and the home rule charter. But I think the mayor should be a little bit more active and forceful in fighting for district residents, and saying and declaring sort of what Trump is doing is wrong, right? Like, yesterday you heard mayors from all across the country and in the cities that Trump indicated, like Chicago and Baltimore and Los Angeles, unequivocally say, our city is is handling crime. Crime is low here. But also defending their city in a more forceful manner. And I would like to see the sort of notion of let's find a common ground and compromise versus let's defend our citizens and defend our citizens' rights.
All right. Anything you want to add to that, Carlos?
Yeah, she's exactly right. I think that as we've seen with not just the way other mayors and stuff have handled this, when we even look at the quote unquote trade war that Trump is doing, we've even seen Trump does not there's no appeasing him by saying, hey, if I do X, Y, and Z, then you'll leave me alone for the rest of the stuff. Once he knows that you will give him what he wants, the demands will never stop. So I agree with her. Muriel Bowser should just put her foot down and say, no, we're not gonna do this. You're gonna have to go to court for us to give you power over DC.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, Bowser definitely did try to appease Trump and talk about how they will work with Trump, and he has legitimate, I guess, some legitimate concerns. But to be fair to Bowser, and I mentioned this is an older video, so old, 2-3 days old. But since that, when Trump kept, as you point out, and as so does Louis George, he just keeps taking, right? You give him a little, an inch, he'll take a mile. DC has now sued to stop the takeover. So I personally am good with this. I feel like, I understand what Louis George was saying. I agree that it would have been much better to have stronger language, but I get where Bowser, and I'm not a fan of Bowser, trust me, I'm not, but I get where she felt she had to step lightly given the sort of subordinate status that DC has. So I'm okay with it. And now they are suing Trump. So I don't know what else they could do.
Yeah, I think that, you know what I think should have probably been done by now is there had been even if it's a press conference with, like, you bring on your Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's the congressional delegate, I guess they call it, for DC. You bring on the attorney general, the police chief, the mayor, the city council people, and you have a press conference basically say, here is A, B, C, and D, what we're going to do to fight this, and letting residents know here's the rights you have against this as well. I think there's a lot of times there's kind of like this, we're working behind the scenes for your best interest, but you don't know what that looks like or what it is, and that goes on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, Carlos. I would note you mentioned, and I did not know this, that the close to nonagenarian, she's in her late 80s. I think you told me.
She is 88 years old right now and running for re-election. Delegate
Holmes Norton, but she hasn't been seen, correct?
No.
She's very demented. I don't think there's any question. Her mind is, no, I don't mean to be funny. She really, because when she's in press conferences, she loses the thread.
Yeah.
She falters.
She's an 88-year-old woman who, has...
That's how it is.
Stein reported about how even before, I think ever since Trump took this DC takeover thing, she has not been seen in public. She is not sent out any press releases, any statements about what's going on. And it's like, she's 88 years old. I think
it's so sad. This was a woman who very forceful, very high profile hero of the civil rights movement in the District of Columbia, a professor at Georgetown Law. So obviously high powered, intellectual, and, we're witnessing her decline. This is exactly what we saw with Dianne Feinstein, who I don't think had as impressive a record, but she had been, I believe, mayor of San Francisco. Yep. These Democratic politicians, if they're not going to step aside, I think the party needs to exercise far more power, far more control over pushing them out. That's what Hogg wanted to do, David Hogg, and he got huge blowback for even saying if you're too old, if you're over a certain age. My gosh, the retirement age, 65, 67, these folks are 20 years plus past that.
Exactly.
And, it's a huge problem. What do we do? We talk about this all the time. We got to stop voting for these people. We got to come up with better solutions. That's what we said. I said, don't vote for Kamala. She's awful. Were we wrong? Now we look at Trump taking over cities. You weren't with me too. You weren't supporting Harris, but and to make it about race a little bit, you mentioned 3 other cities, or Louis George does. You did too. In addition to DC, 3 cities with black mayors. I think we can't ignore that. There's a race element here,
of course.
So, were we wrong? Should we have voted for Harris? No. What do we do here? What are we doing here, Carlos?
So look, I'm gonna have to agree with you. How I think if Kamala Harris was president, do I believe that she would be calling the National Guard and all the feds to show up and walk the DC streets? No, I don't. Do I think that she would be exercising other authority over DC? I mean, if she was going along with everything Biden did, probably so, because we have to remember too, Biden vetoed DC's crime bill after the Republicans in the House and Senate said that they're going to get rid of it. Or I think maybe it was a 50-50 in the Senate then, but he also got rid of DC's crime bill that they did, which actually had some good things when it came to decreasing certain sentences for certain crimes,
nonviolent offenses.
Yeah, for nonviolent offenses.
And also, cashless. Do they have cashless bail now? I know that was for some reason Trump is a big thorn in it. Cashless bail for some reason Trump has a bee in his bonnet about, which I don't get that at all. It doesn't make anybody less safe.
But how? Because he says that he needs it so that his rich friends can get out of bail and get out of jail. Right. And it's not because if they weren't, and I think some of these people went to jail, it'd be like, ooh, we can't really let them out because of what you did for rich people. So rich people have to get out of jail free card some kind of way. But no, I think that one, it's definitely a racial component to it. But two, I also think that this is something that both Democrats and Republicans have been bad on when it comes to giving DC autonomy over itself. I mean, President Obama could have, when he had the majority in the House and Senate, they could have passed legislation to give DC statehood, and then we wouldn't be talking about this. So it's one of those things. It's like Democrats set the table and Republicans sit down and eat.
Yeah. Well, we both agreed that the Democrats bear a lot of the blame for this. The Democrats are bad, but it probably wouldn't be this bad. Yeah. So I don't know what you do with that, because I'm not going to just vote for bad. I'm not going to vote for evil. People say, well, if you vote for the lesser of evil, you still get evil. I never agreed with that. But at some point, I like I said with Harris, I don't agree with anything I never liked. From the beginning, I didn't like her policies. Yeah. Before she was even a senator, before she was attorney general in the state of California, because I was living out there, so I saw her. Oh, wow. And I didn't trust her. I didn't think she was a good choice, and I didn't think she had gotten where she deserved to. She should get through merit, but more through her connection to the mayor, His Honor, Willie Brown. And Willie Brown even has said it. Willie Brown even said, yeah, no, she's not.
He really did. He was like, if it wasn't for me, she wouldn't be where she was today.
That's right. Well, it's true. Yeah. So all that aside, we wouldn't be in this bad place probably, at least in this regard. But, if she just thrown us a bone, if she had even said anything about the Gaza genocide, I would have held my nose and voted for her. But there's got to be a point, right, where we don't accept the Democrat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one to say, is a Democrat better than a Republican? I think it depends on what issue. 9 times out of 10, yes, but I think that better is very, very marginal. I also think if we keep running this scheme of voting for the lesser of two evils, the evils just keep getting worse. So at some point, the lesser of two evils is the evil that the other side was 2 years ago. So I mean, at some point, we're just voting for the same things.
Yeah, I think that's right. I want to just put this on screen because, I was really trying to figure out, well, is what Trump's doing legal? Is it illegal? What are the legit, how can we push back? And as a lawyer, I always looked at the law. I really did. You can read descriptions in newspapers. You can read what a judge even says, but I always look at the actual code itself. So there it is. There's your whole code. And I highlighted part of it, but basically, the president can, when Trump determines that special conditions of an emergency nature exist, which require the use of Metro Police for federal purposes, the president may direct the mayor to provide him. The mayor shall provide such services of the police force. So, first of all, that's incredible amount of power. It just says the president determines. It doesn't say how he determines. Doesn't give it, say that these conditions have to be met. A judge, there's judicial review, nothing. The president just gets to determine it. But still, you feel he has to. There's no emergency nature. It's ridiculous. Crime rates are down. You saw those sloppy looking federal agents walking around, totally safe, area of DC. I go to DC a lot. I never feel unsafe.
No.
There are dangerous areas. It's true. Let's not
right.
I mean,
everywhere has dangerous areas.
Everywhere is dangerous areas. This is ridiculous. There's just a pretext. It's false, but still he can do it, but only for 48 hours until he provides the reason and how long it's going to last. As far as I know, that hasn't happened. He only gets to do this for 30 days. He says he's going to go beyond. It's fascism, Carlos.
It is. We're watching fascism take place more rapidly, I guess, than it would have if the other person would have won. But I mean, still, fascism is fascism. We live in a police state. We live in a pro-cop country. It's really disgusting.
What should we do? What should we do? What do you think? What do you recommend? I want to ask you what you're doing because that's a little bit unfair. I mean, we do what we do, but what should we be doing?
I hate to sound like a broken record. I think people need to vote differently, vote for other parties outside of the duopoly, but I also think people need to push their current legislators to do more, stand up more, take more of a charge. I mean, honestly, I would love to see the same kind of action around this to what people did during the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020. Like, you have a movement across the country of people standing up and saying, like, we're not going to keep going for this, and then push out the federal police.
I don't know how you do that, though. I mean,
they did it in it wasn't federal police then, but I remember, wasn't it Minneapolis or Oregon maybe, where there was a section of like a city that basically like protesters took over and was like, no cops are coming in this area for they did it for like a few weeks, I think.
Was this in response to Trump? I'm thinking that's LA. I thought that was a part of LA.
I was thinking back during the Black Lives Matter protests. Oh. I know that there was some no cops in this area type of movement, but I'm not 100%.
All right, Carlos Child's with us. Don't forget, click like, click subscribe. Any kind of contact, any kind of interaction with Halitics is really, really good for beating the algorithm we showed you that crime is down in DC. But still, no, it's a problem. I mean, no one's going to say it isn't, sure. But they're addressing it. I always felt, I worked for the District of Columbia, no issues. I mean, I always thought, based on my experiences, DC was actually a far less corrupt city than places like, for example, New York. I mean, look at New York. I mean, Cuomo, Adams, Schumer. I mean, these people are just, who say it again? So who is
Bloomberg?
Bloomberg, right. Well, he's just a billionaire anyway, but clearly Giuliani.
Yeah.
So DC
has been better. I mean, DC has a record of like your Marion Barrys, like people who are actually 100% with the people. And we've talked about this at different moments too. People will overlook humanistic flaws if you're actually serving them. They will say, look, I don't care what you do in your personal time, as long as you're doing what I need you to do, then we're good. Yeah, I think, and one more thing before we change topics here is that on the Mamdani front, it's a lot of people who are now saying, given what happened to Cuomo with Mamdani, that people are looking at Janice Lewis-George as, hey, maybe she could have a Mamdani moment against Muriel Bowser. Because if Muriel Bowser does run for re-election and wins, this would be her 4th term as the mayor of DC.
Well, I would love to see Janice Lewis-George run for mayor. I don't know if she's quite as far to the left as Mamdani, maybe just not as outspoken, but that would be great.
Yep.
It'd be really good to see it. And there were issues with Barry, not so much as far as I know with corruption exactly, but the crack, cracks, drugs. Well,
that's a did it on his own personal
extramarital affairs, and that kind
just
of thing.
Personal stuff. Yeah, just personal stuff he got going on.
All right. I see that.
We defend Marion Barry.
I don't want to make him an exemplar. He had his flaws.
Oh yeah,
as you pointed out. Let's move north of the city. So my county, Montgomery County Public Schools. This is a story fresh off the presses, except there aren't any more presses. But my wife is a teacher, and we were talking about this. this is the X account for MCPS, and they're bragging, look, the superintendent's A&S meeting. I don't know what A&S means, administrators and something, but basically it was all the principals and vice principals throughout the county. And it's a huge public school system with billions of dollars, I believe, in their budget every year. So they're psyched because they had inspiration from two powerhouses, Anurupu Ganguly, who I have to admit I did not know who she was, but I looked her up, and Colin Kaepernick, former NFL quarterback, driving change and championing justice. And I love the response from Swing State, because this is what everyone's immediate response was. We don't care about your inspiration. How much of our tax money is going to these people? What does this have to do with our public schools?
Yeah.
Do you have an answer to that? Because I sure don't.
I don't either. I always wonder when you see, because in my just previous jobs and stuff, I've done work in not Montgomery County school system, but just work around like Anne Arundel County school system stuff on the organizing side of like community members. And I know that there's been previous just different school systems throughout the state and just country have had like these where they've paid for like different speakers to come in and stuff. And I always wonder, like, who's that for? It's like, who are these speakers for? Are they for just kind of like the publicity and say, hey, look what we can do? Is this the version of like, hey, instead of like raising wages for teachers or like investing in them and giving them like free school supplies, is this the version of like a pizza party? Like, what's the end goal? Because I feel like it would be better used to like say, hey, we're going to pay for all the teachers and staff to go to like a conference and learn about different techniques for teaching kids, different systems that we're going to have and things like that. But if it's just like, hey, come just listen to these people talk. Okay. Just send me a video.
It's like a TED Talk. There you see, this is a picture that this came from the MCPS X feed. There's Anurupa Ganguly or Ganjuli. I'm sorry, I mispronounced her name. She's a big virtual, those helmets. What do you call them? Virtual reality.
Yep.
Right, VR. So that's her thing. And she's got a company. And she sells schools she licenses to schools these helmets. And there you can see it is like a TED Talk. We can visualize. I'm standing up there. I've got a little rocking chair there. And I'm like, again, why is my tax money going for this? I bet she didn't. I bet she waived her fee, because I think for her, this was a sales pitch. I think they don't tell. And this was what my wife said too. One more point, Carlos, because I'm kind of diary of the mouth, but
please go ahead.
She made the point, there's no transparency. No one knows why they did this. It's never been set out. There's no explanation. This is what we hope to hear. This is how Colin Kaepernick can help us be better administrators. Because isn't that the whole point? I mean, isn't that why you would do it?
Yeah. Wait. So even to like teachers and staff, they're not given an explanation of like, hey, this is why we're doing this. This is what we hope to achieve out of it. Because for me, when I first heard, when you told me about this and said that Colin Kaepernick was going to be there, I'm thinking, oh, okay, cool. If it's like football related or it's like sports teams related, then cool. Like he actually can talk about, hey, here's some stuff y'all can do. Here's like different training techniques, or just like inspiration for like kids who want to be football players, sure, or just sports players. But what, like, he doesn't have like a degree in education last time I checked, or he doesn't have a degree in like public schools, like does anything with school systems of like. So what, like, who is this for? I always wondered, like, is this just for like the superintendent people to be like, hey, I just want to have these cool things happening, or what is it? Wow.
This is from the Celebrity Speakers Bureau, that number 50 to 100,000. I don't know where it came from. I presume they know, but that's the number that's been bandied around for his fee. And obviously the school system, they spend billions, they can afford it, but the look is really bad. And again, he's not, as far as I know, Kaepernick is not an educator. He was a okay NFL quarterback. He did lead the 49ers, but he tried to be as honest. He led them to the Super Bowl. They lost. He didn't play particularly well in the Super Bowl. He was a good quarterback. He was decent. He was ultimately drummed out of the league because he took a knee during the national anthem. And I believe that was why. He was good enough to at least be a backup.
Yeah.
Wasn't great. He was okay. But he was good enough that he should have stuck around, except that he made a political statement that they didn't like. Okay, fine. I don't know how that makes you qualified or an appropriate speaker to all. You mentioned sports. Well, if it was about football, then why not have that with the coaches, right? Why not have it with the athletic departments of these schools? But you're meeting with the administrators, the principals. I have zero explanation, and it pisses me off. I'll be honest with you, it really does. It's a waste of money.
Yeah, I think it's weird that there isn't an explanation, at least to the staff, like saying, "Hey, here's why we're bringing him here. Here's what we hope you get out of this." And like thing from the staff, "Hey, what did you get out of this?" But I'll say, like, I agree with you on the points of like Colin Kaepernick, definitely, not in the weeds about it with him with the football stuff, but like, yeah, I definitely feel like if you led the 49ers to the Super Bowl, you should have at least got drafted again. But you're right, he took a knee for police brutality, but also for he did a lot of speaking on the fact that a lot of the NFL teams are owned by white people and most of the profit is kept at their level, but and yes, they make a lot of money as football players, but the majority of profit is not shared amongst the players, but also how Black people amongst the NFL do not have the kind of power that you would expect them to have when they are.
That's
the majority
interesting.
Of players.
I wasn't aware that he had spoken out again about the economics in the league as well, but I can imagine that would have pissed off the owners a lot more than.
Oh yeah.
Anything about the police. I don't think they care about that. What they care about is their money, right? They care about keeping as much as they can possibly put in their own pockets, even though they have these basically protected monopolies, no competition. Each city gets one team, maybe two. They share the TV revenue, so you can be an incompetent. Doesn't matter. There are limits to the salaries. There's caps.
NFL now, I believe, owns 25% of like ESPN. So like they have a lot of power. But even on top of that, I mean, you're talking about their even football stadiums, which are funded almost entirely by taxpayer money. So even the billionaires who own the teams aren't the ones who are investing in their own stadiums. And I was talking to somebody about how these kind of stadiums work, and they were mentioning how the like tax revenue that they get from these stadiums are only good for like 25 years. So that's why after every 25 years you hear them say, "Hey, the stadium's getting old. We might have to move to a different city." What government wants to help us pay for this now?
Yeah, the football stadiums have proven over and over again to be a drain, not a benefit for cities. They only have games, usually regular season games, 8, 9 a year now. Maybe there's some playoffs, maybe not. There are these big hulking, relatively these eyesores that are empty virtually every day and night of the year, with a few exceptions. So no, they're not good for the cities. But that's, whatever. Kaepernick, fine, more power to you. If you can get people to pay you $50,000 to speak for an hour, I guess that's great for you. I don't think it should be a public school system spending that money. In a way, though, I'm even more troubled by Garupa Ganguly's speaking. Anurupa Ganguly. She is the founder of, I think it's called Prisms or something. She pushes this virtual reality in schools. And the question there, this is AEI, so they're neo-lib, they're hardly progressive. And the question, does it work? And I looked through that interview. I didn't come up with an explanation for how it actually does lead to better outcomes for students, because that's presumably what it's all about. Is she getting she like the sister-in-law of somebody on the board of education here? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why they're promoting this, but I want to play this video because this is cool. Let's talk about this. And what do you think, Carlos? So here's the ad.
Oh, their kids are going to love this. I mean, the fact that they do the VR at home all the time with their friends and incorporating this in the classroom, they're already going to know like what's happening. This is very, very cool to like bring their interest into the classroom and engage them in this way.
we are training about 300 teachers across grades 7 to 11 math and science. They're learning about the VR hardware, how to utilize it, what does a 3D graphing calculator look like, what does a 3D interactive graph look like, what does a 3D annotation tool look like. So it's now a whole new set of natural interfaces, and they're learning how to use those natural interfaces.
When students are just sitting, they tend to get jittery, but when they're physically moving around, their brains are activated a lot more. And that's gonna help them to be engaged with that content. I was having a ton of fun just learning how to interact with this stuff, and I almost forgot that I was doing a math problem.
I was this kid that needed something like this, something to engage my mind. And so all I'm seeing through this is just the potential for kids to be engaged further, really grasping onto the material in a different way than they maybe haven't before.
But I'm going to stop that there because it keeps going on. But I mean, I'm not totally rejecting this. I mean, it seems like, yeah, maybe you're learning stuff, and for some kids you learn differently than others, but I'm not aware, Carlos. Maybe let's get your reaction. I mean, what is your sense? Because maybe it's a good idea.
I'm like an old person when I say this. I think like this seems like it's more fun for the teachers than it's gonna be for the students.
Games,
because I feel
right?
like if you want to do a video game and I'm gonna learn through a video game, make it a video game. Like make it something more fun. I mean, seeing them move a number line from here to here, and then it has a little animation. It reminds me of like when I was growing up, they had that leapfrog that you learn from, and I'm like, I don't think in leapfrog had, it was big technology back then, but that was back when the computer was like this wide and everything, and it was huge. Now with the VR that we see now and the video games that are out there and the technology, this isn't going to shock anyone. But also, it would be amazing to see how this is normally rolled out in schools, because I can see this being like a predominantly wealthy school thing. Like, okay, this is something cool that like wealthy schools can do, but all of your and I can see, depending on how this goes, them trying to take money out of lower income schools and funnel it to the more wealthier schools and be like, hey, we don't have as much money in the budget, but hey, students, here's a cool VR thing that we're going to use 3 times. I mean, schools can't even give out laptops to kids who need them in hotspots. What are we doing now? Talking about everyone's going to have VR.
Yeah, I don't know about the implementation, how unequal it would be or not. What I'm just concerned about is millions and millions of dollars being spent, and this woman is given an opportunity to make a sales pitch and to present her case for spending. And if you look at the cost, I put it up there, the software license costs $12 per student a year. Now there's over 100,000, there's a couple 100,000, I believe, MCPS students. So that's right there, well over $2-3 million if they all get it. And then you'll get, but there's also headset, each class set of VR headsets. Then you've got another, that's the license, but then all the equipment. It's expensive. It's really expensive. And unless there's some, I would say, hard data that shows that money is the best way, is spent more effectively and efficiently on this stuff than on anything else, throw it out the window. But I don't think there should be some kind of a give this this person, the CEO of this company, the opportunity to make a sales pitch. That just seems inappropriate to me.
It does. I mean, now, if she was saying, hey, we're going to gift you all these VR headsets, oh, cool, bring her on, let her talk. Heck, bring her. We will name the VR headsets after you if you want to do that. But unless it's that, you're right. Are they just bringing people in to say, hey, pitch this idea so that the superintendent or school board may say, hey, this is good? I would love to see, what is the decision of this, like, do the school board members have any say about these speakers being put in place and stuff? Or is this something that is just the superintendent's purview? Because I would be wondering, how much money are we wasting having these like symposiums? That money could go to teachers, that money can go to students, that money could go to sending everyone to all expense paid conference to learn about different teaching techniques and stuff.
Well, again, no transparency. How was the decision made to invite Ms. Ganguly? What were the factors that weighed into it? Are you considering right now a contract with this company, Prisms? Those are really important and relevant for us to know. But again, government in the dark is a real problem, and we can just talk about it. But
you're right.
I don't really have an answer. Maybe just we can say get more involved, but people are so busy, and we're strapped for time, and we don't have resources. I'll keep following the story, though. Whatever I can get out, I will share. I find it very troubling.
I wonder if the teachers union has a position on like when these things get spent on, or they like what their view of this is.
All right, one more. Unless you have anything else, I want to move. We'll have got one more Maryland-based story. This is former Maryland gubernatorial candidate Ben Jealous making news, not in a good way. Full disclosure, I never worked for Ben. That's not fair, but I know Ben. I don't know if he knows me, but I know him. I met him. I wrote an op-ed for him supporting his candidacy in the Baltimore Sun. And, I supported him strongly for governor. But the bloom's off that rose. I'm disappointed, Carlos. This is another example where I know you've mentioned there have been some other issues involving Ben Jealous, but here he was head of the Sierra Club and now terminated.
Yep. I know he's challenging this as well. He said, I think in a post or something or press release or whatever, that he's going to challenge this through whatever legal means his contract allows him to. To me, it started off wrong. Like him becoming the executive director or like president of Sierra Club started off wrong because he had. I remember it was articles talking about how Sierra Club was going to shell out like $1 million or so to retrofit a different office for him because he didn't want to move to where the actual headquarters of Sierra Club is. So they're trying to like make him comfortable with coming in. I am always surprised when these big organizations get high profile people to be their executive director, because I never understood what's the purpose of that. Is the purpose of it to say, hey, we need someone, is your job to bring in money? Because if your job is to bring in money, then cool, you're going to get someone high profile who knows how to raise dollars. If the job is actually like run the organization because you know about environmental stuff or you know about whatever the organization's main thing is, hire people who have like experience doing that, probably from within the company, like you were saying off air, like hire
promote within 100%. Yeah. It's definitely a fundraising position, right? I mean, that's their most important responsibility. By the way, just real quick comment from Stephanie. We should have intimidating looking, well-regulated leftist militias meeting these guys in the street. They are giant chicken S's walking around trying to intimidate people. I don't disagree. I think if you tried to do that, you'd get probably arrested. I mean, maybe not.
I mean, during the Black Lives Matter protests, you had Antifa out there protecting protesters and stuff. I mean, the right does it when they have protests. They have the 3%ers and stuff with the guns, the bulletproof vests and all that, and nothing happens to them. I think groups like Antifa, and I will say this, I'm not going to say anyone should go out and do it because I know I wouldn't feel safe doing that, and a bunch of people wouldn't feel safe. I think especially Black and brown people definitely are not going to feel as safe as maybe white people doing it. But I think definitely some of these groups who have done it in the past, this is definitely a good time to step up and challenge that. I don't really do you hear about Antifa as much as we used to?
No, I don't. I mean, not really at all. And I was never that even familiar with what they did. But I just want to make a comment about Breonna Joy Gray, because one thing I learned from her program, she was talking about the Black Panthers and how, in the late 60s and early 70s, they performed that role, right? They protected African-American protesters and freedom, right? Not really freedom fighters exactly, but people who were fighting for something better. and many of them were killed. And I really wasn't aware of that, but the FBI killed many Black Panther leaders. So the government is very prepared to deploy violence to maintain its monopoly on violence.
I mean, Black Panthers used to also do what they would call like police watches, where they would actually like follow police during their routes just to make sure that they're not terrorizing the Black community or have some kind of accountability. I mean, should these things come back? Yes. In the time that we live in, is it difficult? Because I think economically people are in a different situation, because these are like full-time jobs basically doing that. And I think also like you said, the government has murdered people who have done this kind of work, but also that it is very like it's putting yourself out there for everything. I mean, you have people who are labeled as domestic terrorists just because they were holding police accountable and involved in the Black Panther movement. But hey, also mutual aid came out of that.
That's right.
The universal school programs like feeding breakfast, school breakfast came out of them. So yeah.
No, there's a lot of positive that came out of the Black Panther movement, and I think a lot of the negatives have been exaggerated.
Yeah, definitely.
To say the least. So there's Ben. We've seen him at events. We've talked to him. I think I even introduced you him at one.
No, you did.
Event,
yeah. You were the person actually. You're the reason I first met Benjela. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but you weren't impressed.
No, I'm not impressed by Benjela. I think it's maybe a personality thing. My first interaction with him or meeting him was when we did a protest outside of the White House. I think this was while Biden was president.
Yeah.
And they were doing like a mass arrest thing. And hey, I know that has been done in history of people doing civil disobedience, getting arrested, all that. My view is kind of like I kind of see it as a privileged thing to do like civil disobedience and get arrested because you know that you're not going to really face anything. But I know a lot of people, if we're talking about the majority of less like working class people, an arrest record could end your whole life, no matter what. It
was performative. I agree with you. This isn't like the sit-ins, right? Where you really you could get beat up by these racist cops, the sit-ins during the 50s and 60s and the civil rights movement. You could get beat up. You try to register people to vote. You could get shot. This was basically theater.
Yeah,
it was theater.
We're going to make a statement by getting arrested. But the problem is, if it keeps being just this like performance thing, a lot of people tune out. And it was like, oh, these leaders were arrested and they were shortly released. End of story. Who cares? Yeah.
And I think most people recognize it's a load of crap. I mean, plus they're on the clock. They're getting paid for it too.
They really are. They're getting paid.
They're what's his name? Joe Give, my former boss, Joseph Giver, he was arrested. Well, it was part of his job. It was part of his job responsibilities. Most people, they get arrested. It hurts them. It makes it harder for them to get paid. Not they get paid to get arrested. This, I thought, from the article in Maryland Matters, which is very thorough, give them a lot of credit. Carlos, by the way, has been published in Maryland Matters, so they obviously know what they're doing, at least sometimes. This looked really bad to me for Jealous. I'm kind of agnostic. I wasn't prepared to believe the worst about Ben whatsoever, and they're very, very circumspect. They don't tell you what he did, but what I get the sense is he treated workers badly. Yeah. That's just it, and probably really badly. So the Progressive Workers president, that must be the union at Sierra Club, said they were heartened, right? So the rank and file workers were glad, not just that he had been suspended, but that he was terminated. The union voted no confidence. They claimed that he was mismanaging the organization, the strategy, and the budget, and was attacking the union. And then I thought this was a very telling quote. We hope that his departure will open the door for a stronger relationship between workers and management and allow the Sierra Club to focus on fighting the administration. So, I mean, I think that kind of says it all. I don't, but there still, of course, is pushback. There still are going to be people who defend Jealous.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the worker said it best. Like he was not good at his job. And I mean, now I understand there's never going to be, I don't think there will ever be a union that is like full fronted, we support management ever. Because I think if it is, then that's a problem with the union leadership then. But I think that from what they're saying, Ben Jealous caused a horrible, tumultuous situation where they were like, he's not even in support of us at all. And I mean, he oversaw the layoffs of multiple staff as well.
Yeah, well, you made the point it was a unanimous decision by the board. The article, Merrill Matters, the reporter had to dredge up to former board members, Mayer and Hansen, who did defend Jealous. And I have to say, this writing is a little bit provocative. They're trying, I think, to drum up a racial controversy where it may not even exist. Because if you read it closely, what the writer says, former board members defend Jealous, who is the nonprofit's first Black executive director. And I'm not a big guy in identity, but I want to just say this. Ben Jealous, Black, yes, but he's mixed race. His father's white. You saw his picture. And I think it's relevant because right? I mean, you talk to him, he fits. So he went to Columbia University. He's a privilege. So he's part of the elite.
So yes, is he a part of the elite establishment of your? I'm trying to think of a good word of your leadership class of like nonprofit elites. Yes, is he still? Yes, in him being mixed biracial. Yes, he's still a Black man. I will say he's a biracial Black man. I will say it's like President or it's like Obama. He still is looked at. We all will look at him as a Black person, whether he is biracial or he was just Black. I will say this, that if we talk in society, and I've even heard this discourse before when it comes to like presidents, that it's easier for society to accept a biracial person than it is to accept just a Black person who has two Black parents as well. So I get what you're saying there. I think that could there have been racism within some of the people? Yeah, but that's everywhere could be racism. I think you also have to look at all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Sure. And let me just add, though, what I was saying before also is they defend him arguing that he was treated differently than his white predecessors. But if you look at the actual quote, they just say, well, they do say the first Black executive. So the quote is the first Black executive director is being treated like a fall guy, unfairly blamed for board and past management decisions. They don't say it's because he's Black, though. They do say, yes, he's Black, which I understand, of course, it's like one drop and you're Black, whatever. But I think the reality is a little more complicated. There's some, and Jalen Rose, former NBA basketball player, has made this point that some, like a Black player at Duke University, they all speak, they speak like educated, right? I don't know how best, but like a Grant Hill, right? Have you heard Grant Hill speak? I mean,
no,
as opposed to having a more street type style.
Okay, so it's a more, so you're saying it's like a more, yeah, it's not a good way to say this like publicly because it's very like,
it's provocative, but I'm trying. But it's relevant.
I get what you're saying.
Restate what I'm saying in a more acceptable way.
I feel like what you're trying to say is that he has a kind of a code switch to him. That he is his code switch to be like acceptable to your mainstream white audience. He does that more so than you would have other people who will not.
Nina Turner. Nina Turner.
He's not a Nina
Barack
Turner type.
Obama and Ben Jealous are one side. Nina Turner would be on the other.
No, okay, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, and I think that, and I also say I think having a Nina Turner type would not. I don't think this people of Sierra Club may not even like that kind of style. They will be like, that's a little too much. So Ben Jealous could be their good fit. I also think that I agree with you in the sense of like even reading the quote again, they're not saying because he is Black, this is why he's being treated differently. What it seems like they are saying is that he's basically has to take the fall for the previous actions of the board. I will say, like for most businesses and nonprofits, that is kind of how it goes. Like once you become the new head person, it's up to you to, you can take a change from all the past things that have happened and say, yeah, that was signed off by them. I'm not signing off on it. Or you keep it going. I mean, so you got to kind of, you do what you got to do. I mean,
that's like, oh yeah, duh. So somebody screwed up before you, you're stuck holding the bag. I mean, that's just the way it goes. That's
you took the job.
I mean, a race issue to me. And they don't say that, right? When you ultimately look at it. And as you pointed out, there are a lot of concerns among the African-American employees. And I think this is where and other employees of color, where class really plays such a big role that we kind of ignore. And we, a lot of times the focus is on race rather than class, because when we focus on race, we don't unite people who are poor, struggling, and working against elites. And that's what I think we need to do.
I still, me, I still kind of disagree with that a little bit too. I think it's hard. And I'll always say this. I think it's hard to have a working class movement. And I agree with having a working class-based movement. But I think at the end of the day, it is hard for, I'll speak for myself, me as a Black person, to see how that is going to fully come to fruition when you have historic moments of us being a class-based, fighting for like Social Security and other things. And then when white people, they get what they want out of it and Black people don't get what we want, it's kind of seen as, hey, that's your fight, not our fight. And I think those harms have to be repaired. Now, is it before or after we do the working class fight? I don't know. It's just a hard thing for me. Like, it's like when, what was it? It was Social Security. It was passed. It didn't go for like domestic workers or certain farm workers and stuff. You really didn't hear white people, I think, come out in disagreement with that as much as it was the white working class who fought for Social Security. You even look at things like the farming bill. There used to be a whole lot of Black farmers. As they started to dwindle down, you didn't see the farmers bureaus and things saying, oh no, Black farmers need to get treated like we're getting treatment. It was like, what y'all got is what you got. You got to figure that out for yourself. So I don't know what's the solution to the working class like fight together, but it has to be a change. People have to feel like no matter what happens, they're going to be protected.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point. And my question was going to be, so what do we do about it? Because I think it's fair to say that government policies that have been designed to reduce injustice, reduce economic inequality, have sometimes, not always, but have sometimes focused on poor, struggling, and white victims of the economy rather than and excluded African-American victims of the economy who are disproportionately more likely to have been victimized. So I agree with you. That is a reality. But then what do we do about it? Because even the policies that you're talking about, like Social Security, sure, it was implemented in a way, it was started in a way, it was passed in a way that disproportionately benefited whites over Blacks. But in the end, the policy has actually benefited Blacks too. It's actually been good for both groups.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I think from the start, having these policies from the start and there being a sense of like, we will not capitulate on this, like a universal healthcare, Medicare for all. I think from the whole movement of it, it needs to be a thing of like, this is what we want. Everyone covered, everyone being taken care of. And then also within the message, mentioning we also want to see advancements or like money put towards ending the maternal mortality rate and making sure that Black women aren't dying more than white women when it comes to childbirth, making sure that like all these investments in medical healthcare go towards the Black communities that have been disproportionately affected. And then I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to like highlighting stories too. Highlight the stories of the white people in these rural areas who are just hooked on methamphetamines and other drugs that just get kicked to these rural communities too, but also highlight the Black communities in doing it as a all or nothing. We're not going to take you investing in the white communities and then white people say, hey, we're done. Just like as Black people, we're not going to take just investment in the Black communities and we're done too. I mean, we've never really seen investment just go to Black communities anyway, but everyone's gonna, it's all or nothing.
Yeah, no, look, these are tough. These are thorny issues. They really are, because universal single payer healthcare would certainly benefit blacks and whites. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So we should do it. But there are going to also be disproportionate outcomes that will continue, right? There will still be probably worse outcomes for black people than white health outcomes, even with universal single payer. But those disparities will likely be reduced. I think almost everyone agrees with that. And then we'll be in a better position to address the disproportionalities that continue. But no, it's true. I mean, look, I will say this. And it's purely anecdotal, but just my wife will talk about like black male teachers, black men that she's worked with, and they seem to die young. I mean, we know that just black men die young. And there are a lot of different factors, but it's just the way it is. And this is something we need to address. But I do think that universal single payer coverage, Medicare for all, would reduce that terrible trend, terrible fact. It doesn't eliminate it, so let's look at what else eliminates it. It's not, single payer doesn't eliminate poverty. Doesn't reduce. We have to address poverty. We have to reduce stress. We have to reduce challenges getting jobs, challenges getting promotions, all those things. But it seems to me that shouldn't stop us from imposing, because one solution which will make things better doesn't make it perfect, doesn't mean we don't do it.
Agreed.
All right, so here's my issue. This has nothing to do with race.
No,
but Ben Jealous. And this has to do with the idea of fundraising. Look, Ben Jealous comes out of finance to a significant degree, much like Wes Moore, the current governor and of Maryland. I think it's a problem. These are people who go into business who are at least in part motivated by desire for themselves to self-enrich. Yeah. And that's fine. But that's not somebody who I think should be running a nonprofit. That's not somebody who should be running a state. No. And I wish the Sierra Club had factored that in mind. Now, they paid him over $400,000. It's a very generous salary. You can make more if you're a CEO, obviously, in the private sector, but probably in some ways, not in every way, in some ways, this is a less challenging situation. And you can feel good about yourself. You're doing good work, or you hope, for the Sierra Club. Yeah. But his record speaks for itself, and it wasn't really
the best.
Public interest.
He made his name off of the NAACP leader, and then he made his name off of running or becoming the Democratic nominee for governor here in Maryland, and which was a huge feat. I will say this was a huge feat for him, especially when the odds were stacked against the progressive person. I mean, you also had it in there. He also worked for Jewel. So you also have it's like you take your good with your bad. And yeah, I mean, yeah.
We got to change all this. It's just the system is so corrupt, and it rewards the worst people. And I'm not saying Ben is, right. I also think it incentivizes you, even if you have. And I think Ben has a lot of good instincts. And when I met Ben, I like Ben. He's charming. He's gregarious. He's friendly. I mean, he has a lot of. Obviously, he's affable, but we have a system that rewards bad behavior, that incentivizes people to act in their own self-interest, and you got to change it. And that's what we're trying to do here at Halitics.
There we go.
With limited success, Carlos.
Hey, day by day, one person at a time.
Look at those compensation figures. I mean, they're making a lot of money there at the Sierra Club.
I always wonder, when people make this amount of money, at what point are we just adding on dollars? Are companies just adding on dollars just to add on dollars? Because wherever he lives at in the country, does he need $400,000 to be able to do his job? Is he doing $400,000 worth of work? Or
it's not even that much when you think about people in the private sector making 10 times that, 20, well, it's also 100 times that.
It's also a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit.
So I think take that into account a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you have university presidents making $1 million. it's just
What?
it's got to skew them. They lose sight. They got to be losing sight of the mission of the organization. I certainly saw that with our revolution. These nonprofits, their mission becomes raising money to pay for their top executives, not to save the environment or promote progressive causes.
No, I mean, all these nonprofits, especially the more lefty ones, they do great work for the most part. And I think that I just never understood this thing of like paying some of these CEOs 10, 15, 20, 30 times more than what the average worker at the place makes. I mean, to be honest, and then when you look at a lot of executive directors don't do that much when it's compared to everyone else. Like, it is mostly fundraising, and a lot of the fundraising stuff is them going to fancy dinners, fancy parties and events and shaking hands and schmoozing people to raise money. I feel like would that money be better spent going towards the actual causes or the actual workers who are the ones actually doing the work so that the executive director has something to go talk about?
Yeah, it's the interests of the people at the top diverge significantly from the rank and file and from the donor, from maybe not some of the donors, but from the people they ostensibly are there to help.
Definitely.
Frontline communities, for example, if you're the Sierra Club or people who aren't able to vote, if like you're Our Revolution, you're trying to, make sure voting is a right, but the interests of those folks are often very different from the people who are running the organization.
Yeah, I mean, look at Black Lives Matter and how the 2 or 3 women who ran that organization took all this money. A bunch of people say we don't know what happened to all the money we raised during 2020, and then they just left, and now they're doing their own schmoozing with other people, high up people, just to have fun. And a lot of the local organizations said we never even saw the money, or the families of the people who were killed by the police. Their families don't even see a percentage of that money that the organizations raise off of their names.
Well, what do you want? What do we do about it? Do you have any? I mean, short of just massively high taxes on the rich, which is always my answer. I don't know what else we do. Prosecute these people more aggressively.
I mean, hey, prosecuting a white collar crime more than, I mean, I've always been someone who supports a beefed up IRS. I think IRS should be well funded and spend 99% of their time just going after wealthy people who do money laundering and don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
And just call it a day. Say, hey, we're going to start taking y'all out unless you start. And then will they start contributing then? I don't know. But at least it makes them feel like there's no choice.
Yeah, but Trump's going in the opposite direction, obviously, with less and less funding for the IRS.
Yeah. I mean, that's even another thing, too. And I already know we don't have time to talk about this, but I would love to talk about it when I come back here with you. Is that the whole no tax on tips? I always wonder, how does that work when it comes to like Social Security taxes? And does it mean that a lot of people who work in this service industry are just not going to get Social Security ever because you don't pay into it? And then also, it's some crazy stuff going on in Maryland that I realized from another podcast I did separately, that a lot of these local like city town council races, no one does campaign financing there. So literally you have like a developer can come and give you $1 million to run a race for like a local city mayor or council or town council, and no one would know at all. Like, there's no reporting at all that has to be done.
Yeah, there's really a problem. A lot of these local races are incredibly corrupt. The money that's just pouring in is enormous, and there's no there's no accountability for it. It's very, very judicial elections. You see that a lot of times. Yeah. Apparently, this is what I'm looking at, the no tax on tips, because I was very curious when you mentioned that. Mm-hmm. This is what AI tells us, for whatever it's worth. And I'll actually share it because this is very interesting. I think this is actually good. If it's true, if AI is correct, and if I'm understanding this, it actually puts my mind at ease a little bit. Carlos, okay. I don't know if it's how accurate, but let's see if I can put this on screen for you. Just taking a little bit of time here. got to work on my OBS skills. Like I know you watch Sabby a lot. She has this thing where she clicks the button and it's like one box gets big and the other gets small at the same time, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure I could figure that out. It's just more work that I don't really feel like.
It might be a different streaming, a different like casting service and all that. And one of those like more not user friendly, but one that just kind of does the things for you. What was this?
Which has more, well, I think she does it herself. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe she has some producer. I don't know. A lot of times these people start out without like me and then they blow up unlike me and then they can hire people to do technical stuff. Not yet. This is what AI says. No tax and tips refers to federal income tax, not Social Security or Medicare. The law allows eligible workers to deduct up to $25,000 of qualified tip income. However, tips are still subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. So, and that says payroll taxes. So that would mean the employer has to pay.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, that does. Well, thank you, Hal, because that also puts my mind at ease too. Because I was always thinking that yes, I support the grand scheme of not taxing people on tips. I think that tips are a much outdated system that we shouldn't have at all. Honestly, I've even been doing more like reading and stuff that it's rooted in racism when it comes to like you had a lot of Black people who used to serve as these like it's almost like porters, right? Yeah, and then keeping that system of like. Also, I think it also has a lot to do with like misogyny, things like that. Of like, hey, depending on how I personally feel about you, I will tip you or not tip you, whether you allow me to touch you or do things that I want to do.
No, it's true.
Yeah,
it's terrible. It's terrible. The server is not, in my opinion, should not ever be viewed as an employee of the customer. They work for the restaurant. They work for the bar, whatever, the hospitality business. That's who should be responsible for paying, and it's a much better system.
Yeah, and the restaurants don't even give them a commission. Like the way it's set up, tips. I feel like at this point, the restaurant should be giving you a commission based on how much food you sell. Like the restaurant will pay you for selling the food.
Well, I don't.
Weird system.
All right, Carlos. Before we, I had wanted to ask you something else. Now that because you raised an issue, and we have gone over the hour, so we could call it, but. That was interesting about the tax on tips. Was there another? You had raised another issue you wanted to bring up.
Campaign finance when it comes to these local races. Yeah,
that needs to be definitely addressed. But that wasn't where I was at this point. So I guess we can call it a show unless you have a final word. If it comes to into my mind, I'll bring it up. But yeah, I'm hoping that we kind of stanch the bleeding. Obviously, times as we've talked about here, and it's depressing. It sucks as things aren't what we want it to be. Hopefully, we will see better days ahead. That's what we're working for. But it's a tough slog. It really is, and that's why we do this.
Yep, one day at a time. We'll get there somehow.
All right. So everyone have a great weekend. Enjoy your afternoon. Thanks so much for being part of Halitics. I'll be back Monday. We'll have Carlos again soon. Lots to talk about. Have a great afternoon.